She didn't believe in love anymore. Not the kind that made you laugh in the middle of the night or left you breathless when someone said your name. For years, Olivia Hart had lived her life by numbers, stock prices, quarterly margins, and the precise rhythm of her schedule that never allowed time for anything unpredictable. The CEO of Hartwell Technologies didn't do messy. She didn't do vulnerable. She didn't do blind dates. And yet, there she was, sitting alone in a quiet restaurant corner, dressed in a navy dress that looked perfect but felt like armor, waiting for a man she'd never met. The waiter had asked twice if she wanted to order, but she kept saying, "I'm waiting for someone." She glanced at her watch again. 15 minutes late. Her chest tightened with irritation, but beneath it, something else. A flicker of embarrassment she hated herself for feeling. Her assistant, Carla, had insisted she try this. "He's perfect for you, Liv," she'd said, voice bright and teasing. "He's from a great family, educated, charming, the whole deal. He's the son of a business partner. You'll finally meet someone on your level." "You on her level?" Olivia had smiled politely, but the words had stung more than she let on, because being on her level meant being alone at the top, surrounded by glass walls and people who only saw her as the woman who never broke. The truth was, Olivia hadn't been on anyone's level for a long time. The sound of the restaurant door opening pulled her from her thoughts. She looked up, expecting a tall, well-dressed man with confidence written all over him. Instead, a man in a worn gray jacket stepped in, holding a paper bag in one hand and glancing around awkwardly like he didn't belong. He wasn't handsome in the polished, magazine cover way. His hair was a bit messy, his stubble uneven. His eyes, tired but kind, searched the room until they landed on her. He froze. She frowned slightly. He hesitated, then walked over. "Oh, are you Olivia?" She blinked. "Yes." He let out a breath of relief. "Oh, good. I was worried I had the wrong place. Sorry I'm late. Traffic was crazy and, well, daycare pickup ran long." "A daycare." Olivia blinked again, her mind scrambling. "I'm sorry, daycare." He scratched the back of his neck, smiling sheepishly. "Yeah, my son's teacher wanted to talk. He's 5. Great kid, just a handful." She stared at him, confused. This couldn't be right. "You're Matthew." He nodded. "Matt Reynolds." He sat down before she could respond, setting the paper bag on the chair beside him. "Sorry about this," he said again, opening the menu. "Haven't been on a date in years. My buddy signed me up for that app as a joke, but, I guess it worked." Olivia froze, her stomach sinking. There was no way. Her assistant had said she'd be meeting Matthew Harrington, the heir to a luxury hotel empire. Not this, whoever this was. "Matt Reynolds," she repeated slowly. "And you met me through blind love," he said with a grin. "We matched 3 days ago. You said you like dogs and quiet nights, me too. I was surprised someone like you would even reply." Her mind raced. Blind love? She had never used that app in her life. Carla must have. Oh God, Carla must have mixed something up when she set this up. Olivia's first instinct was to leave, to stand up, apologize, and walk away before the night turned into a complete disaster. But something stopped her. Maybe it was the way he looked at her. Not with expectation or calculation, but simple warmth. Maybe it was the fatigue in his eyes, the kind that mirrored her own. She sighed. "There's been a mistake." He frowned.
"A mistake?"
"I think we were matched by accident," she said carefully. "I was supposed to meet someone else." He blinked, then chuckled softly. That explains a lot." Olivia tilted her head. "What do you mean?" "You just don't seem like someone who swipes right on single dads who fix cars for a living," he said with a crooked smile. Her eyes widened. "You're a mechanic." He nodded. "On a little shop across town. It's not much, but it keeps us going." If for some reason she couldn't think of what to say, he leaned back, his smile fading a bit. "Hey, if you want to leave, I get it. I've been stood up before, won't hurt my pride." There it was again, no bitterness, no self-pity, just quiet acceptance. Olivia hesitated. Every part of her screamed to walk away. She had a reputation, an image, a life that didn't include small diners and grease-stained jackets. But there was something about the man sitting across from her that felt real, and she hadn't felt real in a long time, so she took a breath. "No," she said softly, "let's eat." His surprise was genuine. "You sure?" She nodded. "I'm already here. Might as well make the most of it." He grinned, a small dimple appearing on his cheek. "All right then, best decision I've heard all day." As they ordered, the conversation began awkwardly. Small talk about the weather, the city, the terrible traffic. But slowly, something shifted. He was easy to talk to, honest. When he laughed, it wasn't polite or forced. It was warm, filling the space around them. She found herself smiling more than she had in months. At one point, he told her about his son, Ethan, a little boy obsessed with dinosaurs and bedtime stories. His voice softened when he spoke of him, and Olivia caught a glimpse of something she didn't expect. A man who had built a life around love, even when it was hard. When the check came, he reached for it, then paused. This place is a bit fancy for me. I'll cover half if that's okay. She blinked again, startled by his sincerity. No arrogance. No assumption that she'd pay. Just honesty. She smiled faintly. It's fine. I've got it. He looked at her for a long moment, then nodded. Thanks. I'll get dessert next time then. She raised a brow. Next time? He shrugged. Hey, a guy can hope. She laughed before she could stop herself. When they walked out, the city was glowing with soft golden light. The night air was cool, filled with the sound of distant traffic and laughter from nearby bars. He walked her to her car. An understated gesture, but it felt genuine. Well, he said, stuffing his hands in his pockets, I'm guessing your real date missed out. She tilted her head, smiling slightly. Maybe. But I think I ended up with better company. He chuckled, eyes meeting hers. That's dangerous talk, Ms. Olivia. She hesitated. Just Olivia. He grinned. Just Matt, then. They stood there for a moment, caught in the quiet pulse of something unspoken. Then she said, Good night, Matt. Good night, Olivia. As she drove home, she couldn't stop thinking about him. About how comfortable the silence had felt. About how, for the first time in a long time, she'd forgotten to check her phone. She didn't know it yet, but that night would change everything. Because the next morning, when she walked into her office, polished floors, glass walls, and her assistant nervously holding a stack of folders, Carla blurted out, Oh my God, Olivia. Please don't be mad, but I think I messed up your date last night. Olivia just stared at her, heart pounding in her chest. Carla winced. You were supposed to meet Matthew Harrington, not Matthew Reynolds. And somehow, instead of anger, Olivia felt something else. A flicker of warmth that she couldn't quite explain. She just smiled faintly and said, It's fine, Carla. But deep down she knew it wasn't just fine. It was fate, showing up with rough hands, tired eyes, and a heart big enough to hold her entire world if she let it. It started as a whisper, the kind that drifts through boardrooms and back channels before landing exactly where it hurts. Someone had seen Olivia Hart, the powerful, elegant CEO, laughing with a man in oil-stained clothes. Someone had snapped a photo. By morning it was everywhere. As the Hartwell Heiress slumming for love, CEO's mystery mechanic, the romance no one saw coming, Beauty and the Grease Monkey. The headlines were cruel. The tone was worse. Olivia sat in her office, the city skyline stretching endlessly outside her glass windows, her phone buzzing nonstop with messages she didn't want to read. Carla stood near the door, her face pale. They're saying the board wants an explanation, she whispered. Olivia said nothing. She stared at her reflection in the glass, the woman she'd built brick by brick, the image she'd defended for years. Now, one photograph had turned it into a circus. She wasn't angry about the gossip. She was angry because part of her had known this would happen. Because even as she'd fallen into laughter and warmth in that small garage, she'd heard the warning voice in her head, the one that said people like her didn't belong in places like that, and yet she had gone anyway. Carla spoke again, hesitant. Do you want me to schedule a statement? Olivia finally turned, her voice steady but quiet. No, I'll handle it myself. When she left the building that evening, flashes erupted like lightning. Reporters shouted questions. Who is he? Are you too serious? Is he using you? She didn't answer. She just got into her car, hands trembling slightly on the steering wheel. But instead of driving home, she drove across town, past shining towers and clean streets until the city grew older, smaller, more real. She stopped in front of the garage. Matt was outside, locking up. He looked up when he saw her headlights, his face breaking into that familiar, gentle smile. But it faded when he saw her expression. Hey, he said softly. What's wrong? She stepped out, her voice tight. They found out, Matt. He frowned. Who did? The media. My board, everyone. She laughed bitterly. They think you're some charity case I picked up for fun. He was silent for a moment. Then he said quietly, And what do you think? She blinked, caught off guard. What? What do you think, Olivia? Because I don't care what those people say. I only care if you believe them. Her throat tightened. Of course not. But you're scared, he finished softly. She swallowed hard. Yes, I'm scared of losing everything I've worked for. The respect. The company. He looked at her gently, not judging, just listening. And if all that respect depends on pretending you're someone you're not, is it really worth keeping? She wanted to argue, but the truth in his words cut deep. She turned away, blinking fast to stop the tears. He stepped closer. Olivia, I can handle whatever they throw. But if we, becomes too heavy for you, say the word and I'll disappear. I'd never want to be the reason you lose your world. She turned back slowly, eyes wet. Matt, you and Ethan are the only part of my world that feels real. That night, for the first time in her adult life, Olivia let herself cry. Not in secret, not in silence, but there, standing in a rain, damp garage under flickering light, with someone who didn't see her as untouchable. And he just held her, saying nothing. Because sometimes silence is the only thing that understands pain. The days that followed were hard. Investors questioned her judgment. Board members threatened to call an emergency vote. Henry Carlisle, the smug investor, saw his chance. He came to her office, smiling that slick, confident smile. "Olivia," he said, "this situation has made people nervous. I could help stabilize things. Buy out your shares, keep your name as a figurehead. You'd keep the image, no scandal, no risk." She stared at him, tired but composed. "And all I'd have to do is sell my soul to you, right?" He chuckled. "Come on. You can't be serious about that mechanic. He's not your future." Something inside her snapped. "You know what, Henry?" she said quietly. "Maybe he's not the future you recognize, but he's the only one who's ever looked at me and seen me. Not my company, not my title. Just Olivia," Henry scoffed. "You're throwing away your legacy for sentiment." "No," she said, "I'm saving my humanity." And with that, she turned and walked out. But the storm didn't pass easily. A week later, Matt's garage was vandalized. Windows shattered, hateful graffiti sprayed across the wall. "Gold digger, stay in your lane." When Olivia arrived and saw the mess, her heart sank. Who would do this? Matt shrugged, trying to downplay it. People scared of what they don't understand. She looked at him, eyes fierce. "You shouldn't have to deal with this because of me." He smiled faintly. "I'd deal with worse for you and Ethan." Ethan tugged her sleeve then, holding up a small broom. "It's okay, Miss Olivia. We can clean it together." Her eyes softened. She knelt down and helped him sweep, the three of them working side by side until the daylight faded. When it was done, Matt put an arm around Ethan's shoulder. "See, buddy, we fix what's broken. Always." Olivia looked at them. This father and son who had so little, yet still found so much joy in every small victory, and something inside her finally shifted. She didn't need to prove herself anymore. Not to the board, not to the press, not to anyone. A month later, Olivia called a press conference. The cameras flashed again, but this time she didn't hide behind her polished smile. She stood tall, wearing no jewelry, no script. "I've been asked to comment on rumors about my personal life." She began, her voice calm but firm. "Yes, I've been seeing someone. His name is Matthew Reynolds. He's a mechanic. He's also one of the most honest, hard-working people I've ever met." The reporters stirred, whispering. She continued, "Some people think success means surrounding yourself with people who look a certain way, live a certain life. But I've learned that real success, real love, has nothing to do with status. It's about integrity. It's about kindness. It's about showing up when things are hard." Her eyes softened, "And that's what he's done for me." By the time she finished, the room was silent. Not all were convinced, but for once, she didn't care. That evening, she drove back to the garage. Matt and Ethan were outside, working on an old car. "Busy day?" he teased when he saw her. She smiled faintly. "You could say that I told the world about us." He froze. "You did what?" "I was tired of hiding," she said softly. "And I wanted them to know the truth." He stared at her, a mix of awe and disbelief. "You didn't have to." "I wanted to?" she interrupted gently. "Because you and Ethan, you're the reason I found my heart again." For a moment, neither spoke. Then Ethan ran forward, wrapping his arms around her waist. "Does that mean you're going to stay with us, Miss Olivia?" She laughed through her tears, kneeling to hug him back. "If your dad lets me." Matt's voice was soft when he said, "You know you never had to ask." The setting sun bathed them in gold. A woman who had everything but was empty, a man who had little but lived full, and a child who tied them together without even trying. For the first time in years, Olivia didn't feel lonely. She didn't feel like a CEO or a headline. She felt like herself. Later that night, after Ethan had gone inside, she stood beside Matt, the sky turning violet above them. "You were right. You know," she said quietly. "Sometimes the wrong road takes you exactly where you need to be." He smiled. "Guess we both got a little lost, huh?" "Yeah," she whispered, leaning her head on his shoulder. "And somehow we found home anyway." The garage lights flickered, the city hummed softly in the distance, and in that stillness, everything that truly mattered, love, peace, belonging, finally made sense. And maybe that's how life works sometimes. The paths that seem like mistakes end up being miracles in disguise. Because love doesn't always come dressed in diamonds and silk. Sometimes it shows up in worn boots and gentle eyes, with a child who just wants you to smile again. And if you're lucky enough to recognize it, you hold on. because some of the most beautiful stories begin with a mix-up that was never really a mistake at all.